Yeah, supposed to film a video today. Yeah, let's talk about the INFJ door slam. Hi guys, Popcorn245 here. And as you know from the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the INFJ door slam, what it is, and kind of my interpretation of it. So I first learned about this concept from another YouTuber called Frank James, and you can see the link to his video on this subject above. Super big fan. And if you remember, I took a personality test with my mom, and we both are INFJ types, which is how I stumbled across Frank James. And link for the personality test video. But I think at first when I heard about the concept, it really it made me feel personally attacked. And anytime I get that kind of feeling that something that's happened is personally like calling me out, is analyze exactly what part of it's true. Because usually if you get, triggered
E-class
by something, it's because of the fact that there's some grain of truth or something that you don't want to address inside of that. And so it made me reassess a lot of my past relationships and a lot of past times with friends and different things where I have kind of closed the door on our relationships, and it led me to kind of like figure out like, well, why is that? And there's a lot of traits of INFJ that tend to come off as kind of cold, because I think of the way that we often operate. A lot of times we navigate the world with our feelings, but then when it comes to making decisions, it's often we're reserving our own emotions and we're making logical decisions. And so a lot of times I think people will see us as kind of cold and calculating because we're always kind of like aware of the feelings, but we're kind of just making whatever logical thing makes the most sense to us. So with all that being said, what is the door slam? So if you haven't heard of this concept and you know of any INFJs, you might have had a time where they've kind of closed the door on the relationship, and have become very kind of cold. And so I think when I delved into it a little bit, at least for myself personally, I found that the issue is usually, it comes back to like, if you've ever taken the MBTI and you know the INFJ, it's often called the advocate. And I think that's a really good way to look at the personality type, because a lot of times we want to be good at servicing other people and helping them grow towards their own goals. And I think the problem that can happen is a lot of times our help isn't really warranted or wanted. And the issue becomes that that's how we kind of seek our own self-worth in the world, is by helping advocate for others. And so once we can't do that for someone, I think it becomes the only logical thing for us to just kind of close them out altogether, because it becomes this thing where we're investing a lot mentally, physically, or whatever into this relationship because we want to help you reach whatever goals you've set for yourself, or whatever bigger vision we've seen for you. And if we don't feel like we can advocate for you, then we don't feel like we are actually servicing our needs. And so I think that's where it kind of leaves us with this final impasse where we have to close the door on the relationship because we don't feel like paying the existential debt that comes along with having that continued relationship, knowing that we can't really help this person. And I think that's the toughest part, at least for me personally, is while it may be true that I've closed the door on a lot of different relationships and I can seemingly kind of like snap whenever the situation arises like that, I think a lot of times, again, it's just important to remember that I don't think it's coming a lot, at least in my case, not usually coming from a place of like, I just don't like you, or I don't want to be around you, or anything like that. I think that it can feel a lot more malice driven than maybe it is. For me, it's always a matter of, if I don't feel like my presence and my services or whatever I have to offer is wanted, then I just don't give it. And I think it's very difficult when you look at everything in a very logical way to kind of go like, oh, I'm just going to continue, you know, pushing through, so to speak, because after a while I think it just kind of, it wears us down, because we can't comprehend or deal when somebody isn't progressing and moving forward, and it makes us feel stuck and like we're failing somehow. So hopefully that was something that was of interest to you. If you liked talking about the MBTI and the personality test and stuff like that, and want to hear more about my perspective on INFJ, let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, that's it for tonight. 245 out.